It is my pleasure to introduce our first speaker this afternoon, Brent Crossland, consultant at Lee, United States of America, who will share with us his experience on engaging the global supply chain to drive greater social and environmental performance.
Good afternoon, buenas tardes. Yeah, I appreciate being here. A little bit of background about myself. I'm representing Lee, but my background mostly centers at the farm gate. I work a lot with cotton farmers, but also have experience, I like to say, from field all the way to fabric. So I deal a lot with farmers, a lot with sustainability all the way through the supply chain, though, and I'm very pleased on behalf of Lee to be able to talk about a lot of the tools and the products that they have and the new technology that they're bringing to our industry to really make a difference. And I'm really pleased to be able to share this with you. Lee goes back a long way, for those of you that don't know that, in the denim business especially. But it started out all the way back in 1889 with H.D. Lee. He developed the company, came into the business with the first garment factory in Salina, Kansas in 1912. He needed to move west. He was originally from the East Coast, but needed to move west for medical reasons, get to the west, to the drier climate. And while he was there, he's very entrepreneurial, and he put in this business. And then he, as you see, started out with coveralls, one-piece coveralls, so it was all about workwear. But we've come a long way since then, as you can see from this chart. And there's a lot of new technology. I mean, even the zipper fly, Lee first developed and put that into the jeans. So he's come a long way. Launched even product for eventually for women's wear, but they still kept a workwear focus. And then I kind of get a chuckle of this because this is the one that started actually the leisure suit, for those of you that remember that time. So a little bit of interesting tidbit and information about the development of the fashion that they provided over the years. And of course now they're on cutting edge of fashion as well. So they started, like I said, with workwear. And so the focus has always been about work, but we all work. Pretty much in different several phases and fashions, we do work. And so they've empowered working world through to have a brighter future. And they celebrate the legacy of Mr. Lee by weaving purpose into everything that they do. And they strive to use the most sustainable sourcing and manufacturing, and that's what we're going to talk about here today. So they're driving impact through the supply chain. I mean, the title of this presentation is really long and lengthy, but when you get right down to it, it's about the whole supply chain and driving this technology and innovation. There's several tools that they're using that the industry provides. I'll talk about this a little more in a moment, but for those of you familiar, they work a lot with the Sustainable Apparel Coalition and also the Higg Index. And then there's another program or a tool that they have that's called Chem IQ that allows for a reduction in chemicals that are not necessarily wanted or needed. And then they're also looking at some very especially different and unique technologies in the supply chain. One of them is that I'll talk about will be the Tonello all-in-one system. Some of you may have been here yesterday, and I made a presentation on that in cooperation with the Tonello company. And if you get a chance, I strongly urge you to go by their booth while you're here. It's just amazing, this all-in-one system. And they have it demonstrated there, so it's really cool. I advise you to go by. We'll also talk about a new breakthrough in dyeing, also called Indigood, and then also 3D design, virtual design. So the Higg Index, for those of you that are familiar with the Sustainable Apparel Coalition, the Higg Index, quite frankly, allows the industry to look at their systems and see how they compare collaboratively or with industry. So kind of get a benchmark and know where they need to make improvement. And it's a standardized value chain measurement tool that allows them to do that. And we encourage our supply chain to use this system. And so most of them are doing it and they're starting to adapt it, and it really allows you to track your progress. So the Chem IQ system that I mentioned, this basically it's a 5-step proactive approach where the chemicals are identified, first of all, with the suppliers that Lee is using, looking at their practices in identifying chemicals that need to be changed, replaced, or removed. It's a very simple, cost-effective, and easy scalable program that we're encouraging the suppliers to adopt. And then as more of these suppliers adopt the ChemIQ process, we, by 2020, would like to be to using only 100% of the preferred chemicals in this supply chain. And then there's, again, the all-in-one system. This is just amazing to me. It's made up of 5 different stages. There's the eco-free system, which in the washing and finishing replaces water for a large part with ozone. Then there's the no-stone process, so that when they're doing the finishing, rather than using the old method of stones and pumice stones in the system, they actually have a containment apparatus inside the machine itself that replaces all that. And then there's the up technology that saves and reduces water as well. And basically what it means is in the machine, rather than the water coming from the bottom, they designed a system to come through the top and use minimum water with the action of the machine compared to traditional equipment. And then there's the core system that optimizes the uses of dyes and softeners and enzymes. And then to me, the most exciting part of this is Metro. You don't really know what you're doing unless you can measure it and monitor it. The Metro system actually takes the whole method of their finishing and keeps up with how much water, how much chemicals, how much energy, all this that's being used so that it can be fully traceable. And so when they make a claim that they're making reductions and improvement in inputs, the data are there to back it up. This just shows, for example, the all-in-one system, but it reduces water from normally around 100 liters per piece down to 6.75 with the all-in-one system. And this graph kind of shows the different systems that I mentioned, or the parts of the all-in-one system. Another new technology that's very exciting is the Indigood. And basically what this means is it's yarn dyeing without water. They use a foam system with the reduction in oxygen also as well. I think they use nitrogen in the process. But it takes the water completely out of the picture and replaces the traditional water vats and chemical baths of conventional dyeing system with foam. So it's a very unique program and very innovative. The Lee team provided early stage funding for this. It's just kind of getting off the ground now, but it's going to be put in and available into their system. And they'll also be sharing this with other companies as well. So the impacts, like I said, it's 100% water reduction, 60% waste reduction involved with this process from normal, and then a 60% reduction in energy as well. So very good technology, and we're proud to bring it to the marketplace. Virtual design is another concept that's really gaining a lot of use within the supply chain for Lee. Rather than the old method, we're doing things more with 3D and virtual. And so basically what happens is you're using less prototypes and wasting a lot less material as you go. It's a whole lot more efficient. It's very flexible and enables new business models and insights for e-commerce and marketing in a very insightful way to produce new designs and new fabrics. So since the implementation of virtual design, there's been a 30% reduction, as I said, in the prototypes. We estimate about 10 million liters of water already saved and 4 million metric tons of carbon dioxide that's been avoided. So basically, I know I've gone through this rather quickly. There's a lot of adoption and new technologies that are being developed constantly, and it's very tough sometimes to get change into your supply chain, to have your suppliers do things differently. But I think the consumer is demanding this. We're seeing more and more demand to do more with less. And so we're partnering for impact with our supply chain. And as a purpose-led brand, this is very important. Lee takes social responsibility and CSR very seriously, and especially making sure that we're more efficient with the inputs that we supply. So it's very difficult, as I said, to make change, but we're getting the message across to the large group of suppliers through the tools that I mentioned like the Higg index and SAC. We're using that to provide benchmarking. And we're also making it as easy as possible for suppliers with things like the index, but also with Chem IQ. So we're asking suppliers to do these things, but making sure that they have tools to make change a lot more available and easy to adapt. And then also, it's very important to show the impacts through physical examples. And I think this all-in-one technology, like I mentioned, is a very, very strong physical example of change and reduction of these different inputs, especially if you incorporate that with the foam dyeing. So all in all, I think they're making a lot of headway. Lee is really very innovative and are looking at adoption throughout the supply chain of these new technologies. So that's basically what I wanted to talk about and bring to light today. So I think we're going to have will the Q&A be afterwards or now? Go ahead and have questions now? Okay.
Uno. Any questions, speaker?
Hi there. Thank you very much. I'm curious to kind of learn a little bit more about the 3D technology tools that Lee is using and what the limitations you see.
The which technology?
The 3D technology design tools and the limitations you see.
Okay. Well, I really don't have a lot more information about it. I just know that they're bringing that to marketplace and using it in their supply chain, and especially adapting it with students as well and new entrants into their design team. Sorry, but I can't really get more down into detail with that, but I can find out for you. Mm-hmm. Yes.
On the Higg index, do you know what tier you're using as far as tier 1, tier 2 suppliers? Like, are you at the mill level with that?
Yeah, they're at the mill level, and I believe they're at tier 2 now. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Any more questions?
And Wrangler's adopting these, obviously, tools as well, so they're going hand in hand, so I forgot to mention that. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
I have a question about the Chem IQ program. Is it comparable to having your suppliers sign a restricted substances list?
Excuse me, on the...
A restricted substances list?
Oh, yes. That's very good. I'm glad you made that point. Yeah, there is a restricted substance list, so that list is shared, and then also alternatives are suggested in there.
But that would mean that you're almost a chemist to be able to assess what kind of chemicals they use and what the alternatives are?
That's true. They have people in the industry and in their supply chain that do that, put that together into the prepared list. But yeah, it's part of the plan.
Quite a challenge, I would say.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further?
Sorry,
Oh,
maybe to add on these questions, for the Chem IQ, are you using, for example, CDHC standards?
They are, and also looking at the, I don't know if I forget the name of the other.
REACH?
It's the reduction, it goes hand in hand with the reduction in water as well. There's some suppliers that are or companies that they're using to do that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Hi, I wanted to ask about the foam dyeing, please.
Okay.
Is that for cotton only at the moment, or can you use other fabrics?
Yeah, right now it's only with cotton. I think it can be expanded later to some of the different ones, but right now it's totally a cotton focus. Yeah, it's really amazing.
More questions?
And yeah, and in addition to that, they're noticing that there's a lot more color fastness in the indigo itself. The acceptance is a lot more concentrated, actually using less indigo, for lack of a better term, to get even a darker shade with less fading. So, very interesting. Any more?
Okay.
Okay, thank you
Mr.
very
Crossland.
much. Appreciate your time.